Has the PFL taken over Bellator as the #2 organisation in MMA? Before we discuss this very important question, my name is Rahul J. This is the Battle Camp. Thank you very much for joining me. While you're here, why not hit the like button and the subscribe button, because we need more subs in here. Look, man, I feel like it's been a little bit of a slow kind of news cycle over the last couple of weeks when it comes to MMA, because I like talking about MMA and I just feel like I haven't had a lot to talk about. There hasn't really been any kind of explosive news stories for me to sit here and share my opinion over. But one thing that's been kind of brewing in my mind is there was a time where the UFC has always been the biggest organization in the sport in America. I feel I need to stipulate this, right? So in America, the UFC has always been the #1 organization, and recently Bellator was a second. I wouldn't say a close second, but they were the second biggest organization in the sport. But I've noticed over the last year and a half, the PFL have started to gain momentum. And I feel like it started when they signed Rory MacDonald, who had just had his contract with Bellator expire. And Rory MacDonald signed with the PFL, and I actually made a video about this. I was driving to work in my car, and I remember speaking about this and saying, oh, Rory MacDonald's gone to PFL, and look at that. This was meant to be the golden child. He was meant to be the next Georges St. Pierre, and he's now found himself in PFL. And at that time, in my head, PFL was like a long way away from Bellator. Never mind, it wasn't even in the rearview mirror of the UFC. So over the last year and a half, or whatever it is, since Rory MacDonald signed for PFL, I feel like PFL have tightened shit up. They've tightened stuff up. They've really streamlined their kind of their product in how they position themselves as an organization with a tournament format. I feel like their tournament actually works way better than all of these Grand Prix that Bellator seem to put on a regular occasion. I need to say Bellator's, the most recent Grand Prix that they've had have suffered a lot because of COVID. So there was a massive gap between fights from each round, and with the Bellator tournaments that they had on at that time, which obviously spoilt the momentum that they were building. But even so, like the Bellator Grand Prix, the way that they're structured, can take up to 6 to 9 months from the quarterfinals to the final bout, right? And PFL seem to be able to have their season, and their season starts and ends in a matter of 6 to 8 months or something like that. I might be talking complete and utter crap here because I haven't done enough research to actually know exactly how long a PFL season runs for. But within that, personally, and I'm obviously just sharing my opinion, I've got no facts and figures to back all of this up. I'm going to be completely honest. I haven't sat and watched a PFL show from start to finish, right? But what I have seen is a lot more PFL footage on the timeline than Bellator footage, snippets of fights and things of that nature. And what PFL have done that I really like is the signings they made in terms of the caliber of fighter. Clarissa Shields is a prime example. She's someone that would have been a dead set Bellator signing, and I'm quite surprised that she didn't end up at Bellator, given the fact that Bellator have no problem in giving fighters the chance or the opportunity to build themselves up, so people that are very inexperienced, to help them gain the necessary experience to get to a point where they can fight at the highest level, right? We saw them do it with MVP. That's just an example that pops to the mind. They tried to do it with Aaron Pico, but it was Aaron Pico and his team that wanted to kind of jump in at the deep end, and they were kind of looking at better opponents than what Bellator wanted to match him up with. So they've done it on, and there's a few other wrestlers, I can't remember their names, but there's a few other guys that fight for Bellator that they've built from scratch. And Clarissa Shields would have fitted quite well within all of that. But what PFL did with her, I saw her name flash up on the timeline. Of course, it helps that she's got a mouth on her as well. She knows how to talk. She knows who she is as a person. She knows how to promote herself. So she manages to gather momentum off her own back. She doesn't rely on a promoter or an organization to do it on her behalf. But this isn't just about Clarissa Shields. This is about Pettis, who signed for him recently. This is about their own fighters that have been fighting for that organization last season and things of that nature. The product itself, I like the way it's presented. It looks polished. I like the studio. I like the colors that they use. I like the commentary team. They've got Kenny Florian and Randy Couture as the analyst, and those are two very, very high. Those are guys that have operated at the highest level who I enjoy listening to their opinion when they're talking fights. Right now, I've just told you guys I've never sat there and been able to watch a PFL show from start to finish because I don't know where I can find it in this country. I've genuinely looked because I've been interested. I've looked online to say, right, where can I watch this? Now, either I'm just super thick and I've just missed it totally, or it's just very hard to watch in the UK. And I'm not really a streamer, you know. I don't really like streaming. If I can't watch it in an easy way, then I don't really like, you know, doing stuff where you keep getting pop-ups and all of that stuff, and then you accidentally press your phone and then another pop-up comes and you lose your stream, and just a pain in the backside, isn't it? But I suppose what I'm trying to say is PFL are gaining momentum, and right now I feel like Bellator are kind of floundering a little bit. Like, they've got a lot of good pieces to a jigsaw in terms of fighters they have on their roster. And I feel like it's, I don't know, it just feels a little bit stale as a product. And like, I understand why Bellator do these Grand Prix, to mix the kind of, you know, the veterans, guys that have a bit of a name in the sport with their less known fighters all in one kind of pot, and try and build a story and narrative behind it. But I don't know, I can't really think of a way that Bellator actually promote fighters as individuals. And I don't know, man. I just struggle to get excited for Bellator fights. Like, the last time I was excited for a Bellator fight, apart from obviously Yoel Romero against Rumble Johnson, which eventually got cancelled. The last time I was excited for one of their fights was, funnily enough, Aaron Pico against Aiden Lee, because Aiden Lee's an English guy whose career that I followed recently, and I like the look of him, and I was interested to see what happened in that fight. So much so that I watched that fight, and that was on the same card as Daly fought someone, and then it was the Douglas Lima when he lost his title to, I forget the guy's name, but he lost his title to is it Ashkarov or something like that? But I just fell asleep before those two fights because I saw what I came to see, and that's no slight on the other two fights. It just didn't really have that. I didn't have the built-in interest for those two fights, even though there was a title fight on the card, and the title holder, the dominant champion, lost his belt and he was dominated by all accounts. So I don't even know what the answer to the question is. I just currently feel that PFL have gained a lot of ground on Bellator as a second organization, and if you're a fighter, that's another option, right? Because there was a time a couple of years ago, or 3-4 years ago, when PFL was World Series of Fighting, where really and truly it was the UFC, and if you come to the end of your contract, then Bellator was where you really wanted to go, and World Series of Fighting was where you went if Bellator didn't really want you. Now you've got 3 players, and PFL seem to have a budget to be able to sign guys that are used to earning a healthy living. I don't know. I just feel like PFL are kind of moving in the right direction, and I don't want to say Bellator are moving backwards, but I can't really see how they're moving forward. You know, They have announced a Showtime deal that's been in play now for what, 3 months, 6 months, I don't know how long, but you know, that's now something that's a prestigious platform that they've got to broadcast their events. But they need to start putting good events on, and they need to start building the fighters more. And I'm just not that interested, if I'm honest with you. And I'm a geeky MMA fan. I follow the sport. Like, give me something to care about and I'll care about it. But if you're not going to try, then why should I? That rhymed. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about what I've just said. Please feel free to put your comments below. Don't be scared to hit the like button, share this with a friend, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll catch you guys next time.